Today I'm going to be telling you about the books that I want to read in 2025. It is a little bit late in the month. Well, actually, it's the very end of the month. It's the 27th, but I feel like it's never too late to talk about the books that you want to read or you're excited to read. So I'm just going to jump right into it and tell you about the books that I'm super excited to read this year. My reading goal is 40 books. I don't know if I'll get there, but I'm really hoping. Last year I had the same goal and I ended up only reading 28, but it's perfectly fine. I'm just going to take it slow and read the books that I'm enjoying to read. So yeah, like I said, without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into the books. So I started the Throne of Glass series last year. I fell victim to the reading order debacle, and I fell into a reading slump after reading Assassin's Blade 3rd, which is fine if you read it that way and you enjoyed it. For me personally, how I build relationships with characters and story building, or world building in my head, I think that I should have read it first, which is completely okay. So that did kind of throw me in a slump for a while with Throne of Glass, but I knew for an absolute fact that I wanted to start it in the very beginning of this year, and I did. So I read Heir of Fire already, and I have already read Queen of Shadows, which, I mean, I know why people say that that's their favorite book in the series now. It was so amazing. I mean, the character development in that one book alone, and when I say the character development, I mean with every single character, was so in-depth and so amazing. I have such a strong feeling for all of the characters in that book and in the series. I love all of them. The subplots in that book could absolutely be their own books. I mean, it's amazing. I love Manon so much, and I love Rowan so much, and it's just, I'm so excited to keep reading. So those are the first two books that I finished and read this year. And Queen of Shadows was actually my 6-star book of this month, or hopefully the start of this year. But that's honestly like one of my favorite books that I've read ever so far. So yeah, it was definitely started on a really high note. And then I finished Onyx Storm. So kind of did it to myself. It's okay, but I had started Onyx Storm literally in the middle of reading Throne of Glass, which is fine. It's, like I said, I did it to myself. But yeah, so I finished Onyx Storm on Friday, I think. I literally got off of my shift from work, and I came home, and I made some tea, and I showered, and I just finished the book. And then I stared at the end of the page for a hot minute. If you know, you know. The ending, literally what? I'm so lost. So confused. My friends are confused, so at least I know I'm not alone. My For You page is confused. My Instagram is confused. Everyone's confused. But it was a great experience, and kind of similar to Throne of Glass. I love the characters so much. I know a lot of people criticize the characters. They think Violet is annoying because they have communication issues, which I agree, but I think that's so real. So I love the characters in this book, and Onyx Storm was so fun to read. It was confusing in the beginning, but I do think it was just reading a book that I hadn't read before and building a lot on the world and the characters and characters you didn't really know in the previous two books. So yeah, it was really fun for me to read. I did rate it 4.75 stars just because it did take me a little bit in the beginning. Which is totally fine for other people, but for me personally, it just wasn't completely 5 stars for me. But the ending and the fact that I literally gasped out loud so many times throughout this book made it basically 5 stars. So yeah, this book was really fun, and I'm happy to have read it. I'm sad that I have to wait so long, but it is okay. So yeah, this is the 3rd book I finished of this year. So on to the books that I want to read this year. I'm just going to start kind of in the same realm of series. I am just going to piggyback off of the Throne of Glass books that I've already read. So I did start Empire of Storms, but like I said, I started it knowing that I was going to read Onyx Storm immediately as it was released. So I'm not going to lie to you, I really don't remember much of where I am, and I'm 230 pages in. So I feel like it's an unfair way for me to keep reading if I'm not like fully into it. And I also kind of messed up, and I forgot that you can tandem read with this in the next book. So I'm probably going to end up restarting it and tandem reading because I think that will be a really fun experience for me, and seeing how far I get in all of or both of the books physically, you know, going back and forth and marking each book. So yeah, I'm currently on this book. I will be restarting it, like I said, but this is the first book. And then in the same series, I have Tower of Dawn, which is the tandem read with Empire Storms. I obviously don't know what happens in these books because it's a series and I don't want to spoil anything. But I did hear that this is the same, or following the same story as Empire of Storms, just from a different character's point of view. I'm pretty sure, so I'm really interested to see what that's about. And then, like I said, I'm just going to start up the tandem read and kind of set it up, and I'm really excited because I've never done that. I've never heard of that. And I think that's so cool and really, really cool to experience for the first time ever, especially reading a series that I love so much. So really excited to do that this year. Then the last book in the series, which is so scary, is Kingdom of Ash. This book, hello, do you see that? Do you know how many devastating things can happen in this book? I'm so scared, but I'm really excited. I'm just very excited and very sad to have a big hole in my heart that's gonna happen after I finish this series. So you'll see a common theme in all of the books that I'm trying to read this year, and that is that they are all fantasy books. I love those kinds of books just like everyone else does. They're so intriguing to me and they're so fun for me, and I love the world building and I love meeting all of these characters that have such intricate feelings and characteristics and that develop with the books and develop with me as I'm reading, and I think fantasy romance books do that very well. So I am going to take kind of a little curve and go into some books that are not fantasy romance. So I want to read more classics this year. I think that it will be a good, not palette cleanser, because I don't want to use them as that, and I think that's bad wording for them. But I do think that they will be good books for me to kind of take a breather. While fantasy books and the world building and all of the characters are amazing and so fun to read, it is exhausting sometimes because it is so much information thrown at you and that you need to remember and think about and form opinions about and all of that. So I do think that classics will be a nice breather for me. And like I said, I wanted to read more classics this year, so what better book to start with than Little Women. This copy is so beautiful. It's pink, it has flowers and birds all over it, and then the edges have flowers on it. I mean, it is just, it's so beautiful. Really excited to read this year. I think that it will be nice for me to read this after Throne of Glass ends, because obviously I know what happens. It's still going to be devastating for me to read. However, I know the devastation's coming. So I am really excited to read this and then keep going with some classics. So yeah. On the same note of not being a fantasy romance novel, I picked this up last year with the full intention of reading it and finishing it last year, and I just didn't get around to it, to be completely honest with you. I just had other books that I really, really, really wanted to read and I couldn't wait to read. So it is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. The cover again is so pretty. I mean, it's just beautiful. But I'm definitely going to be reading this year. My friend read this and she said it was devastating and it was so good, as Sally Rooney books are. I know it's about two brothers and grieving and love and family and all of that. So really excited to read this. I love Sally Rooney. And yeah, so really excited to start this year. So back to the fantasy books. All of the books that I have left physically next to me are first in duos, trilogy, series, so on and so on. So with that in mind, I am hopefully planning on continuing in those series. So with that book comes their sister and blah 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 and so on. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of get started into those books, starting off with Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. I picked this up literally because I saw on Pinterest and I thought the cover was gorgeous and Bow Thieves was gorgeous, so I picked this up. I don't know anything about it other than it has to deal with thieves and it's in a kingdom. But I've heard really good things about this book, just that people really enjoyed reading it and they thought the writing was good, and yeah, so very excited to start this. Last year kind of similarly in the same realm is Divine Rivals. Again, I genuinely only picked this book up because I like the cover and the next book in the series, that cover too. But I do know that this is an enemies to lovers and it has to deal with like journalists, so I'm really intrigued to see what this book holds, and what it's about really, how the story goes. It's also, not in terms of content maybe, but in terms of page length, it's a little bit of a lighter read just because it's only around 340 pages. So kind of similar to not reading fantasy books, I think it will be nice for me to not read 600 page, 800 page book every single time that I'm reading. So I'm very excited to start this. I saw it at my local library and I didn't check it out. Stupidly, then I just went to the bookstore and I bought it. Or I went to Target and I bought it. I actually hate that Target does this. It makes me so angry. But yeah, so excited to start this book this year and hopefully start it second too, just like all of the other books that I have. So please ignore the little glob of white there. Like I said, I hate when Target puts their sticker there, and I don't know how to get it off. If you have a better way to get the stickers off, let me know. So yeah, just ignore that. I'm just gonna cover it with my hand. But the next book I have is Lightlark by Alex Astor. She is so cute. I see her all over my For You page with a little Sharpie going to a bookstore to sign the books for her readers. And this cover, I mean, again, all of the books I'm so lucky to read, the covers are gorgeous. So this cover is super glossy and just so pretty. And I do know she came out with Skyshade either last year or the beginning of this year. I think it was the end of last year. So I'm really excited to read this. It's Hunger Game-esque, which is right up my alley. And actually one of the authors that got me back into reading around the time of COVID, the author of They Both Die at the End, had high praise for this book too. So really excited to read this. Like I said, it has to deal with deadly games, Hunger Game-esque, and yeah, I love those kinds of books. So really excited to read that. Also, I mean, the edges of this book, or the corners of this book, are super pretty too. And the top of the chapters, they have this like intricate vine type design. It's just really pretty. So very excited for this one too. Alright, my second to last book is a book that I, again, intended to read last year, and I was very excited to read it. One, because I've heard great things about this book, but two, because I did take a little peek and read a little bit of it. And I was so excited, but I read What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher in October, and I don't know why that threw me in a slump. It was such a good book, and it was really fun for me to read, but I just don't know why I was not in the mood to read anything after. But yeah, so I have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick, I think is how you pronounce her last name, and I'm really excited to read this. The cover is super pretty. The gold accents at the very corners of the book are gorgeous. They have little excerpts or poems or something at the top of each chapter. And yeah, I know that the main character is in a kingdom and she has an ancient spirit trapped in her head. Meanwhile, there's dark magic or a plague, infection type of thing going on in the kingdom. And yeah, I'm just really excited. I think this is a gothic fantasy, which is also really interesting. So I'm very excited, very excited to read this book. Right, and the last book I have physically next to me is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Kind of similar to Divine Rivals. I saw this at my local library and I obviously recognized it from TikTok and my Pinterest inspo. And I was like, you know what, I should check this out. And then I went to Universal with my boyfriend and I saw a girl reading this waiting for the train to go to Diagon Alley. And I just had to buy it when I was at Barnes & Noble the next day. So the map of this book is super pretty. I love books about fairies, obviously. So I'm really excited for this. I mean, I'm really excited for all my books. I have a really bad habit of just saying, I'm excited, but I am just very intrigued about all of these books. And very excited to keep reading. Alright, so that's it for all of the physical books I have with me. I do know that I'm going to be reading Fearless by Lauren Roberts when it gets released in April of this year. I read Powerless and Reckless last year, and I'm pretty sure this is the final book. I think it's a trilogy. So very nervous, very excited, again, to read this book. But yeah, so I'll be reading that in April when it comes out. And then I have a couple of books that aren't like calling me to read them, but if I get to them, then I'll be more than happy to get to them. I have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series last year, and I loved it, and then I got scolded by a couple of my friends for not reading the other series first, so I hopefully will start that series this year. If not, it's okay, but I won't be mad if I do. And then I also have Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson that my boyfriend recommended to me because he knows that everyone loves Brandon Sanderson, and he assumes that I'll love it too, which he's probably right. So hopefully I'll get to that series at the end of the year, and then I'll be able to start or continue that within the next year. Okay, and then the final book on my bookshelf that I have that I'm not sure if I'll get to, I probably won't if I'm being completely honest with you and myself, is Crescent City by Sarah J Maas. I'm not gonna lie, the length of that book kind of scares me off, which is funny because I'm reading books that are the same length, but I feel like I can only do one Sarah J Maas series, Heartbreak, per year. I read ACOTAR last year, Center of Glass this year, so maybe Crescent City is 2026. But one of my close friends loves Crescent City, so she really wants me to read it, but like I said, if I'm being honest, I probably will not start it this year. But yeah, so yeah, those are all the books that I'm going to be reading in 2025, or I want to read in 2025. Like I said, a lot of the books are first in trilogies or series, so hopefully I'll like them enough to make them more than just a standalone and continue on with the series, and obviously that will add to my book goal. But yeah, like I said, I'm not going to force anything. I do want to hit 40, but I also just want to enjoy books that I'm reading, and I'm sure I'll see more at Barnes & Noble and on my TikTok and Goodreads and my BookTube and all of that stuff. So very, very happy that I'm able to read all of these amazing books and be introduced to new authors and meet new people from the books that I love. And yeah, I'm also trying to film more. I'm really nervous, not gonna lie. I'm like always out of breath for some reason, and I ramble and I say excited a lot and hopefully, so really sorry for that. I'm definitely going to try and get better. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.